Hello everybody, this is Jasmine Gonzalez. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. So this video, I'm going to be talking about trans women in sports. Yeah, lately the debate has been about Leah Thompson competing in sports in the NCAA women's swimming. So my um, video is going to be a little bit different because I don't want to get started to talk about all the things that people have been saying out there that shows how very little they understand about biology. Because I don't see like people can be passionate. Number one, but I'm going to say this: never call trans women biological men because that is totally completely degrading and insulting. Gender is totally completely different from sex, and in all honesty, it just have very little you understand about transitioning and the process that some trans women decide to go. And in all honesty, it's a difficult process. It's expensive too. And if you don't have medical insurance, it can be very difficult. Plus, also, just have very little you understand about biology um, because you need to have an advanced understanding of biology. And look, I before I transition and trying to figure out myself and all that kind of stuff, I did a lot of research. I came across this book. It's written by a professor in Puerto Rico, Juan A. Rivero, and I know it's about intersex, but he explains here a bunch of stuff that some people take for granted. In our reality, sex, there's more than XY and XX, which are the two sexes that people think exist by default. There's more to that. There's also variations. Just because you have an XY chromosome doesn't mean that you're going to end up um, developing the sex characteristics of that particular sex. As is expected, there's a bunch of factors that can happen, specifically with hormones. So I definitely would recommend for some people to read this book, even though I don't agree with everything that is written in here. But it gives you a good perspective of uh, the differences that happen. So, um, like I said, trans women to be also keep in mind that for trans women to be allowed to compete, they have to be a year, some cases 2 years on hormones on HRT, so that way they can lower the testosterone levels. So, in all honesty, all that is including the rules to allow trans women to compete, so that way it levels the playing field and make it a little bit fair. I'm not going to be using NCAA results. I'm going to be focusing on showing some Olympic results so that you can have an idea of things that have happened in actual sports and then decide for yourself whether it's fair or not fair to allow trans athletes to compete. I mean, honestly, if you want to be open, you have to be open. You have to realize that there's diversity in the sexes, that there's going to be diversity in the sexes, and you cannot just have these ideals of masculinity or femininity that have been given in society by the media. Not all men are strong and taller than women. Not all women are tiny and don't have muscle. There are women that have muscles. There are women that are taller than men. There are women that even have some more muscle mass and could be stronger than men. It's just that our society, we have gotten biased by media representation of men and women in it. And as such, it created. That's why people that argue against trans women in sports, they like using this term of biological men. It's just a way of scaring and making you think of what you have seen in media representing trans people. Finally, also this interest of me in trans women in sports because I like table tennis and I've been playing lately, and I even want to play competitively in table tennis. And it's kind of funny because Um, and I even purchased recently a table tennis table, so I've been practicing, and I really want to play in competition, compete in table tennis events. So will I be able to make that happen? Who knows? Um, but also, I found out that in table tennis in the Olympics, they had an event. They had an event um, of mixed doubles, and USA didn't have any team in that. Oh geez, I wonder why. But yeah, there was an event of mixed doubles in the Olympics in table tennis. And people are not talking about that. Oh, you didn't know table tennis existed? Well, yeah, table tennis is an actual sport. It's an Olympic sport. And Adriana Diaz is one of the best players right now. She's ranked 9, I think. And she's from Puerto Rico. And as a Puerto Rican, I'm happy about that. Hell yeah. We're showing our representation there. Now, I decided to look at the results of the Olympic. And you can go, they have you can find the reports for online, and that's why I'm referring to. So in Olympic swimming, take for example 100 meters. Caleb Dressel was the champion. He won gold medal. He did the event. He completed the event in 47.02 seconds. And Emma McKeon, she competed in the same event in women's 100 meters. She did it in 51.86 seconds. That was only like close to 4 seconds difference. 4 seconds. Close to 4 seconds. Close to 4 seconds. Almost 4 second, a 4 second difference, you know? And it's crazy that people, well, more of like 4.94 seconds, almost 5 seconds. Yeah, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. More like 5 seconds difference, but still 5.86. Now, I decided to find the results of the heats. The heats are in the competition. It's like when they take all the people that are competing in that event from everybody around the globe, and they pretty much eliminate people, and they take the best records, and then they go to the final. So I decided to do some research on the time. So there were some heats competitions, and they have the results in there. So I'm going to find some of the results, and you're going to see something quite interesting. Uh, yeah. For example, there was in Heat 3, Miguel Mena uh, from Nicaragua. He had for 100 meters, and he's a man, he competes in men's 100 meter. Um, he had his time for the heats was 51.99. Jean-Luc Safier, his time was 51.94, which is only 2 seconds faster than Emma. But 51.99 for Miguel Mena. So that means that Emma McKeon could have beaten Miguel Mena. Seriously, 51.96 versus 51.99. So saying that, okay, sex is play an important part, may be a little bit limited when it comes to competition. You know, there might be other factors that we have to consider about, and maybe Emma McKeon has a competitive advantage against Miguel Mena. So you have to wonder about that time, but that shows you that there's more to sports than just like being male or female, you know. And let's see if I can find another recording here another time. But yeah, and I had another list that Danilo too. He did the competition in 52.54, so Emma was faster than him too. Oh, there we go. I found it in here. Heat 4. Heat 2. Danilo Rosafio. Danilo Rosafio finished the 100 meter heat in 52 seconds and 0.54, and that's from the BBC.com Sports Olympics. So, again, Emma could have beaten Danilo. So, all in all, Emma could have beaten a bunch of men in 100 meters swimming. So, how can you explain that? How will you explain that? You know, because it is like men are stronger, men are bigger, men have more lung capacity, men are better at sports, men can beat women all the time. Like, no, not at all. I'm sorry. Emma could have beaten all those men in that event. So another sport that I looked like, another sport that I decided to research was Oh yeah, mixed table tennis in Olympics. USA had no representation. Oh, there was a triathlon event, and there was a triathlon event that was uh, mixed relay triathlon in the Olympics. Uh, yeah, and that's also in the Olympics. So definitely something to search. I also look at throwing for singles, and I look at the times, and they differ a little bit by 1 minute, but it's still not much. And I look at the times from other men, and again, the woman that um, won the gold medal, Emma Twigg, she have beaten Ignacio Vasquez and um, a bunch of other men in the sport. So all these arguments that people are given to saying that trans women shouldn't be competing in sports is just ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. It shows how very little people understand about sports. That's number one, and shows how little research they have actually done. How much that is biased on their perception toward trans people, and it's just saying that they're trying to dehumanize us and possibly trying to erase us from existence. My own take, I think trans women should be allowed to compete in sports, and definitely yes, they should be allowed to compete um, in their gender categories. And granted, there are sports that are different with their rules, and different organizations have different rules, but they should be allowed to compete in their chosen gender. And when you look at certain sports, there are also another level playing field that the people don't take. For example, in Olympic wrestling and even in boxing, there are weight categories. You're never going to see a heavier person competing in that category. And finally, there are sports that doesn't make sense to segregate them by sex. For example, baseball, basketball. Why we segregate those sports by sex? Why we don't have um, events that are mixed? I like the idea of that in the Olympics they introduce mixed double table tennis events. That really makes sense in my opinion, because table tennis I think is an event that is more skill based. There are skills that people have to learn. Every player, regardless of gender, and has to learn the same skills for that particular sport. So why do we segregate sports? Some sports into genders. It's, in my opinion, ridiculous. Um, Now there's people that have been saying that trans people should start their own leagues and competing against each other instead. I think that is ridiculous, especially because there's not enough trans people to be able to start sport leagues on our own, and also it's pretty much like going backwards instead of moving forward into being inclusive of trans people in sports. I think I like the idea better of ditching completely segregating sports by sex or gender, and just having sports like co-ed. And I remember playing softball, because I have played softball before, and I played in a co-ed league, and that was fun. That was like way better than just having been in a sports that there's only people from one sex or one gender. um, I feel like maybe making sports more inclusive would mean that we'll ditch the segregation of gender in sport. Like, for example, table tennis. I think table tennis will be interesting if both men and women compete in the same event. And the Olympics show that, but I don't see people talking about the fact that in the Olympics there were two sports that allow uh, women to compete with men, and in an event. I think the idea for, and you can look in YouTube, they have videos of the mixed table tennis tournament, and it was quite fantastic to see that. I found that quite amazing. It's unfortunate that United States had a mixed double table tennis team competing in there, because that would have been fantastic. But I'm sure we know why. And I think we have to look also, finally, we have to look at the sports in different ways. What's the purpose of the sports? You know, the competition. What's the purpose of sports? Making people active. We love competition. Um, but we should look at it from a broader perspective rather than judging uh, a person for their appearance. That makes absolutely no sense to judge a person for their appearance. And it's ridiculous that the focus of the conversation that people or some people have been uh, tossing out there is to harass pretty much trans women and just focusing on our um, on how we look like and what parts we were born with, which is totally completely ridiculous and way away from what we should be focusing on analyzing the sports and the way that competitive events take place. And finally, definitely, Caitlyn Jenner doesn't represent me. She doesn't represent the community. So whatever she said, so there it's her opinion, not necessarily the opinion of all the trans community out there. And I am pro having trans people competing in sports. I'm I wish more trans people will uh, play sports, and I hope that everybody should have their own sports. And one of the sports that I like right now, like I said earlier, is table tennis, and I feel like table tennis is for everybody. So if you're a trans person, you're looking for a sport that you will learn, why not give table tennis a try? Table tennis is fun and doesn't require a lot of investment, and it's a great sport to play. Anyway, peace out, everybody. Stay safe. Bye.